You know that little lock icon that shows your email is secure? What if I told you its great-great-great-grandfather wasn't a computer, but a 15th century spell book? A book written to conjure angels. Sounds crazy, right? Well, let's get into the absolutely wild story of Johannes Trithemius, an abbot who got branded a sorcerer, all while accidentally inventing the science of cryptography. Okay, so the year is 1499, and it all kicks off with a single letter. Our guy, Trithemius, writes to a buddy, and he's bragging about this incredible new art he's discovered, something he calls steganography. He's claiming he can create ciphers that no one can break and use angels to send messages anywhere in the world instantly. What a claim! But here's the twist. His friend dies before the letter gets there. So the new guy in charge opens it, reads it, and is completely horrified. He thinks it's a step-by-step guide to summoning demons. And boom, just like that, Trithemius' reputation is toast. He's now officially a dark sorcerer. So let's explore the case for angel magic. Was this just a Renaissance spell book? For literally centuries, that's what everyone thought. They looked at the book and said, yep, that's a dangerous grimoire. And you know what? When you look at the evidence, it's really hard to argue with them. I mean, even the title, Steganographia, literally means hidden writing. It comes from the Greek for hidden and to write. So right from the start, he's telling you there's a secret. And believe me, he wasn't being subtle about wrapping that secret in some pretty dark occult stuff. You really have to put yourself in the mindset of the time. Trithemius totally believed that the entire universe, the planets, history, everything, was governed by these angelic intelligences. He thought any natural magic needed a supernatural boost, either from angels or, the other guys, demons. So when he puts out a book that is just packed with detailed lists of spirits, magical symbols, and actual conjurations, people took him at his word. Of course they did. They saw a manual for summoning demons because, well, that's exactly what it looked like. So the book gets condemned, his reputation is in shambles, and for more than a century, the Steganographia just circulates in secret, this forbidden, unpublished manuscript. But what if all that angel magic was just a cover story, a disguise for something way, way ahead of its time? Now we get to the case for cryptography, and this is where we start cracking the abbot's code. Because fast forward a few hundred years, and some very smart people finally found the key. And no, it wasn't a key to hell. It was a key that unlocked a totally different secret, one that had been hiding in plain sight all along. The secret was hiding in plain sight for centuries. This thing wasn't a spellbook at all. It was a masterclass in cryptography, one of the first and most brilliant ever written. The angel magic? That wasn't the message. It was the camouflage. An absolutely genius and, pretty dangerous disguise for a whole new science. Okay, so how on earth did he pull this off? It was a cipher in a disguise, and it's actually pretty brilliant. Here's how it worked. First, you'd see an angel's name, say Padiel. That name wasn't about an angel. It was the cryptographic key. That key would give you a simple instruction, something like skip every other word. Next, you'd have this long, spooky-sounding conjuration to summon Padiel. That was actually the ciphertext, the secret message hidden in gobbledygook. So if you had the key, you just applied the rule, skip every other word, to the gobbledygook, and out would pop the real message. The magic was just a smokescreen for the math. So, where does that leave us? Was it magic, code, or both? This is the big question. Was Trithemius just a clever coder using magic as a disguise, or was he a true believer? For him, it seems like that was the wrong question entirely. He saw it as a unified vision. You can really see how it's two sides of the same coin. The case for magic is strong. You've got the spirit names, the sigils, the conjurations. His own friends and enemies accused him of necromancy. But then you look at the case for code, and those same spirit names are just keys. The conjurations are just ciphertext. It's a system for secure communication. It's a perfect paradox. So how could it possibly be both? Well, to get inside Trithemius' head, you have to understand that for him, manipulating language was a genuinely spiritual exercise. It was a way to purify the soul. He came from this mystical tradition where things like language and math weren't just tools. They were seen as reflections of God, of a divine reality. So coding a message wasn't just a clever trick. It was a deeply spiritual act. Yeah, this was the true alchemy for him. His worldview was that everything in our world flows from a divine one into the many. Think of cryptography as a spiritual mirror of that process, but in reverse. You're taking the many, all these chaotic letters and symbols, and you're resolving them back into a single unified meaning. For him, that was like the soul's journey back to the divine. So the angel magic wasn't just a perfect disguise, it was the entire spiritual framework for the project. It was the why behind the how. So, a 500-year-old book about angel magic. What on earth does that have to do with your inbox? What's its legacy? Well, as it turns out, pretty much everything. This guy was basically inventing information theory centuries before Claude Shannon, the guy who actually invented it. He was thinking about how to store, process, and securely send information. He was creating what you could almost call an astro-angelic TCP/IP. I love that. A way to send secure data packets across the Holy Roman Empire using angels as the protocol. It's mind-blowing. And you can trace this chain of influence right through history. In the 1500s, his work directly inspires Dr. John Dee, who was both an occultist and a top spy for Queen Elizabeth I. Then, in the 1600s, secretive groups like the Rosicrucians see him as a foundational figure. Jump to the 1900s, and the scientists finally catch up, calling him the father of modern cryptography. And today, well, he's the forgotten ancestor of every single encrypted message you send. So the next time you see that little padlock in your browser, just take a second and think about the sorcerer Abbott. It kind of makes you wonder, right? How many of the technologies we use every single day have these secret, mystical histories that we've just forgotten?